Morning. Morning, folks. Morning, Lorraine, Ian, Barbara, Lenny, Alex. Stuart, Callum, Ian again. Morning, Robert, Jim, Kirsty, Dave, Jockey, Graham, Alex, morning, Eileen, morning, Marlene, morning, Stuart, Jim, James, Helen, getting there, slowly but surely, Steve, morning, Lynn, morning, Derek, morning, Barbara. Sorry I'm running 15 minutes late today, folks. I had to reschedule for 11:15, but I put that out in my notice this morning. It might not suit a lot of you, but that's just the way it goes. Morning, Callum. Morning, Christina. Morning, Rab. Melvin. Long time no see, Melvin. Marlon. Graham. Brian. John. Julie. Nearly there. Morning, Nancy. Naughty step for you, you're late. Morning, Ewan. Morning, Aunt. Naughty step for you, and all you're late. Morning, Margaret. How's Oz today? Right, that's 100. Well done, Sharon. You're number 100 today, so let's get this broadcast underway. Indytruck Davy in the truck. Coming to you today from the new house industrial estate again in North Lanarkshire, where it is quite a nice morning, a wee bit blowy, and it is 14.5 degrees, really quite warm. So, no bad. Alright, that's the weather forecast for new house in North Lanarkshire. You want to know what the weather's like where you are? Look out the bloody windy. Good one. Right, there's no COVID update. It's because, as I said, the way the data's coming through now, we're only getting 2 updates a week. So we'll fire right in. Okay, so Tuesday started with 2 main themes in the rags. Red Tory leader Sir Comrade Starmer and his deputy Angela Rayner take the Beergate saga by the horns and turn the narrative on the Tories, who have been bigging up this story. Alright. In a master stroke, Sir Comrade Starmer holds a press conference and uses Bojo's "I did nothing wrong" mantra. He goes on to talk about honesty and integrity in politics and how lawmakers must abide by the law. They make Starmer, what Starmer's saying is lawmakers must stick by the laws that they make, alright. Now Starmer then states that if he is issued with a fixed penalty notice for having a curry and a beer at a campaign meeting in Durham, he will resign. Angela Rayner also states that if she is fined, she'll also stand down. Now this throws pressure back on the Tory backbenchers. Alright, Starmer shames them all. He talks about integrity, he talks about honesty, and he talks about abiding by the laws that the lawmakers in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers make. So basically what he's doing, he's putting pressure on the Tories that if Bojo gets another fine, he's putting pressure on the Tories to oust him and do the right thing, because he's made it clear that he will do the right thing. Thing is, Starmer taking a gamble? Doubt it very much. I'm sure that Starmer will be found. It'll be found that Starmer had done nothing wrong. Okay. But all the papers lead on Starmer gambles with Labour leadership. The second theme in the rags is Prince Big Ears to stand in for Lizzie to give Queen's speech to Parliament. The press make a big deal out of this mainly symbolic, archaic nonsense, which has no place in a modern democracy. Why some people find this ceremonial nonsense important, I have absolutely no idea. But while 5.3 million people in the UK struggle for a meal each day, it's no funny. Anyway, Big Ears, the cartoon character, he follows a custom-made Rolls Royce carrying a priceless hat to a palace valued at 2.5 billion to tell the poor and the hungry that Her Majesty's government is about to rip their human rights away. Because it's easier to ignore poverty and hunger if you don't need to think of the people suffering from poverty and hunger as bloody humans. So, human rights to be stripped away. And we'll get a wee bit more of what's in that in Big Ear's speech on behalf of his mother to the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers as we get into it. Alright, now the only paper to steer clear of Beergate and Big Ears are the Record, which leads on top QC Brian McConaughey faces disciplinary proceedings from the Faculty of Advocates for sending sexually explicit and inappropriate messages to Rape Crisis Scotland's Chief Executive Sandy Brindley. Now I shouldn't have laughed at that, but you know, a top QC being stupid enough to send inappropriate WhatsApp and text messages to the head of Rape Crisis Scotland, he deserves to be kicked off the bar actually for silliness like that. Alright. The Star also hit the DVH for you know, the Queen's speech in Starmer and Beergate, and it goes on. Rangers fans plan to fly a hot air balloon to Seville. Now, Davy finds this one quite funny because it's not as if it's just round the corner. And knowing the Rangers fans, look, if the wind picks up, they'll end up in the fucking Ukraine. But good luck to them in their endeavour to get to Seville in a hot air balloon. But you know, it is the Star, and their boffins make all sorts of tosh up. Right, and the National goes on. First Minister promises positive new case for Indy. The First Minister says after Sinn Féin's historic win in Northern Ireland that the UK is not serving the needs of the people of Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland or England well. But as Davy says, if you can't sell independence right now, then you have no chance of selling it at all. None. I mean, Scotland is asset rich, energy rich. It can feed itself, and yet we find ourselves with people who are poor and bloody hungry thanks to the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers. If you can't sell the dream of a better Scotland to the people of Scotland right now, then we're wasting our time. We may as well pack up and get fucking home. Alright, let's move on. Alright, moving on. Tuesday, back here in Scotland, the mainstream media runs on NHS Scotland in meltdown and near to collapse. The BBC GMS programme says A&E in meltdown, paramedics and ambulance staff tied up for hours to get patients into A&E, and the continued call by NHS boards only attend A&E if really necessary. Now, according to what we're being told, people are waiting excessively long times for treatment, staff are exhausted and overworked. Or as Davy says here, though, we're still in the middle of a bloody pandemic here. Of course, and there's a backlog to be caught up on because of the pandemic. And some people are presenting new with things that if they presented with a couple of years ago, wouldn't be a big problem. But, you know, the pandemic's not going anywhere, and recovery in the NHS, especially in the hospitals, is not coming anytime soon. They might get a wee bit of respite during the summer where the staff might get a chance, as COVID lessens, as the weather gets better, might get a chance to rest up. But I can assure you kids, this is coming back in the winter, it's come back with a vengeance. Remember, the over 50s are going for a booster jag in August. They're expecting it back in the winter. So, don't know what the answer is to the staffing problems in NHS, Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and right across Europe and around the world. Because let's face it, all the medical staff everywhere around this planet are working flat out. And I mean flat out. They're all bloody well exhausted. But apparently Scotland's NHS is in meltdown, and that was with Dr. Sandish Gilhooly, or Gilhaney this morning on, telling us that GP services are in meltdown. No, my GP surgeries are not. My GP surgery is well managed and runs well. I don't have any problems getting an appointment. And I've said to you, during the pandemic, my wife is a fantastic treatment for the NHS. Fantastic. So, I can't say for health board to health board, but what I can say is here in North Lanarkshire, although the hospitals are under pressure, we have had no problem with accident emergency. We've had no problem with our doctor surgery or seeing a doctor. So as I say, but apparently the GPs are under pressure and all. Well, you know, there's calls for GPs to get their surgeries open properly. But for guys like me, a Zoom meeting with my doctor would be perfect because I'm out all the time. You know, right, let's move on. Also here in Scotland, the public inquiry into the death of Sheikh Bayou while being restrained by police in Kirkcaldy in 2015 is underway. The family of the 31-year-old trainee gas fitter are up to give evidence, right? And the public inquiry has been set up to establish the facts and the factors in the going on the death of Mr. Bayou. Now let's hope they get to the bottom of it. Now the police, chief of police here in Scotland says that he had spoken to the family on many occasions and given their condolences, but he doesn't think the police did anything wrong. Let's hope the public inquiry can get to the bottom of it. Okay, moving on. Tuesday, and at 11 o'clock, or about 11 a.m, big ears, and the priceless symbol of imperialism enters the house of drunken old has-beens to deliver his mum's speech on behalf of the criminal cabal, and to present the criminal cabal's programme of government, or cabal, or programme of continued criminal activity to the House of Lords. Alright, anyway, Big Ears tells the has-beens and the leaders of the opposition parties, as well as Bojo the Clown, that the criminal cabal intend to introduce 38 bills in this session of the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers. Anyway, the essence of the speech is phony claims to be levelling up, and phony claims that the Tory government will be redistributing wealth. Now, the importance of the other thing that's stressed by Big Ears, the cartoon character, is the unity of the United Kingdom and its internal market. Apparently, pushing the internal market is how we're going to get over this particular situation we're in, but that's not going to help. When people don't have money, Davy's explained this umpteen times until he's blue in the face, when the public don't have a disposable cash to spend into the economy contracts. Simple as that. We have a market-driven economy, or we have a market-led economy. So if nobody's got cash, economy contracts, unemployment goes up, and they're factoring all this in. That's why they're cutting benefits left, right and centre, so that they can spread the thin gruel a wee bit thinner. Anyway, Big Ears tells the House of political has-beens, Tory donors and hereditary imperialists that ministers to introduce bills to allow them to set aside the NI protocols. Then Big Ears tells us all our human rights to be set aside in favour of British Bill of Rights. And after Big Ears finishes delivering the speech written for him, or for his mother, to read, he and the priceless hat fuck off back to whence they came. Alright, it was a despicable thing to see yesterday. A priceless piece of junk with 3,000 odd diamonds on it, made of gold, silver and platinum, being driven to the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers and drunken old has-beens, and a £2.5 million handmade Rolls Royce. Wow, while people can't feed themselves. Alright. Anyway, let's move on back to Scotland. We'll get back into what went on in the House of Has-Beens in a couple of minutes. Alright, anyway, moving on. Tuesday, while MPs in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers make their way to the Commons for a couple of days' debate on the speech delivered by Prince Big Ear, the cartoon character, on behalf of his mother, another cartoon character. Back here in Scotland, the Scottish Government are called upon to continue home abortion treatment introduced during the pandemic. Dr. Patricia Law, BPAS, whatever the hell that stands for, medical director, says the treatment is safe and that it is popular with women. The Scottish Government says they'll make a decision on whether to continue the programme in the autumn. Well, you know, if these things can be done in the privacy of your own home, you don't have to go into a hospital and things like that for it, then, and there's no side effects and nobody's going to get ill, then I'm sure there's a lot of ladies out there who find themselves in a position, especially here in the middle of a cost of living crisis, where pregnancy is not the right thing for them at this point in time. If you can't feed yourself, you can't feed children. It's that serious, folks. Report out this morning, 1 in 7 people are skipping a meal, or skipping meals, or going a day without meals, or 2 days without meals, because they can't afford to feed 5.3 million of them, right? So, anyway, the Scottish Government will decide whether to continue with that programme in the autumn, okay? Right, moving on. And down that road, in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers, the debate on the Queen's speech gets underway. Bojo commends the speech to the House. So what was in the agenda for government? Right, well, there's energy security bill, tackling the cost of living crisis by further diversions from the EU. Aye, that's really going to help. 8 bills to diverse standards for the UK and the EU. All right, and that is supposedly to boost the economy and grow our way out of the cost of living crisis. They've got absolutely no chance. As Starmer pointed out, but we'll get to Starmer in a minute, when he pointed out, we've got the lowest growth forecast for any of the G20, no G7, G20 countries. With only Russia forecast to have a worse growth than the UK. Alright, so we get tackling the cost of living crisis, bills to diverge for the EU, a British Bill of Rights to replace the Human Rights Act, measures to regenerate the High Street apparently, and a bill to clamp down and disruptive protests. Right, that's going to be necessary because things are really going to get exciting over the next wee while. When Granny can't heat the house, you think about old Izzy running about in a bus to keep warm, and there's the Crown getting ferried to the House of Lords and a £2.5 million hand-built vehicle for the task. Wow. Anyway, where were we? Now, the bill to clamp down into disruptive protest down that road, that will be needed as civil unrest is on the cards, as Ma and Pa can't feed the kids, as the supermarkets get emptier and food price inflation gets higher. 250,000 people, it's reported today, cannot afford the basics of food, housing and cleaning themselves, being able to remain hygienically clean. It's 250,000 people. With over 5.3 million people skipping meals and up to 20 million food parcels being handed out by the Trussell Trust, this is nuts. Right, anyway, the first to respond to the programme of government was Red Tory leader Sir Comrade Starmer, and he went on the cost of living crisis. He said the programme for government was empty rhetoric and that the cost of living crisis really needs tackled. He then went on to say that Bojo and the criminal cabal were out of ideas and out of touch and out of time. Next up was Ian Blackford, and he tells Bojo that Scotland will be having an independence referendum next year. He speaks of our claim of right, and he tells Bojo that if he and his criminal cabal down in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers think that they can stand in the way of democracy, they're wrong, and democracy will sweep them away. Now, the debate on the Queen's speech and the programme for government will continue for a couple more days. Then there will be a vote on the programme for government. It will be voted through unopposed, as is the tradition. Okay. Now, what was interesting about Blackford's speech was he's telling Bojo, we're having a referendum, bugger you. Right? They don't care. What's interesting about that is it's only 2 weeks ago since the Queen's biographer says that the Queen will sign off on any independence vote that or a win for Scottish independence if when the vote goes ahead. No if the vote goes ahead, when the vote goes ahead. Alright. Now what did Blackford mean by democracy will sweep them aside? Right, well when they put their secondary bill through to say what type of referendum it's going to be, because remember, referendums are already legal in Scotland. We've got a referendum in England. The secondary legislation that's going to be signed off by the Lord Advocate Dorothy Bain. That's all it is. But what he's saying is, if that's going to be challenged, then what they'll do is they'll just revert to the first and heavy referendum bill, which is already passed through and is in law, in Scots law, to hold the referendum and get it round them. So get your head wrapped around it, folks. That referendum's coming. Mr. Blackford, tell them, you know, we have the right to choose the type of government we want, and at the time we want to do it. All right. So that's what Blackford meant. I've seen a lot of people think saying they thought what he meant was that democracy would sweep them away because there would be an election in 2024, and that in 2024 they would just hold they would have a plebiscite plebiscite election. Either way works. Either way works. It really does. I don't have an objection to either way. If they're not going to play ball and step up and get involved, then we'll hold the referendum anyway. It's legal under Scots law, it's legal under international law. And if the unionists don't want to participate and say they're going to boycott it, then so what? They had a franchise. This has been explained to the Muppets many times. It was even explained to the idiots at the BBC and STV by my own ex-MSP, Alex Neil, who made it quite clear. They will have had a franchise. If they don't exercise a franchise, then tough. We don't negate the result of elections because you couldn't be bothered to get your arse down the polling station or filling out a postal ballot. We don't negate them. So, if the unionists in Scotland don't want to participate and say they're going to boycott it, who gives a damn? Right, let's move on. Tuesday. While all the pomp and ceremony goes on in Westminster, over in Northern Ireland, Michelle O'Neill, leader of Sinn Féin, with Mary Lou McDonald standing next to her, calls on the DUP to get their bahookies back into Stormont and to get the executive up and running. Miss O'Neill tells unionists not to be playing around and no shenanigans and to respect the democratic will of the people of Northern Ireland. She also tells Westminster not to mess with the protocol without consulting with Stormont, Dublin and the European Union. Okay, so you got Blackford in the House of Thieves of Carpetbaggers telling them, listen, we're going to have this referendum, and you've got Michelle O'Neill telling them, don't mess about with these protocols without consulting us, and Mary Lou McDonald the other day there says, get ready for an Irish referendum, an Irish border poll, because it's coming. No right away, but to get prepared for it, it's coming. And it was quite interesting, as Anne put in the comments, I've been away back and listened to it, a lot of young people phoned the LBC the other day there, and they were, I think it was the James O'Brien show if I remember correctly, and they were expressing a view that they want Irish unity. You remember, young people have grown up out with the Troubles, they're not interested in the past, they're only interested in their own future, and the EU is their future. Alright, right. Also Tuesday, on the Ukraine, US intelligence says Putin is preparing for a prolonged conflict and his aim is still to take the whole of Ukraine. So this could be a long protracted war. The Ukrainian government is asking the West not to lose interest and focus as the Ukraine slips down our news agendas. And as you probably noticed, the Ukraine's not hit the front pages in a wee while now. They have slipped down our news agendas. So they have. Okie dokie. So that's what I've got for you so far. Let's move on to the news review for this morning, because I have to get my bahookie in gear. Moving on to this morning, what the rags have to say. The eye has PM's U-turn on cost of living crisis. No, he's not. The Herald has Queen's speech fails to tackle crisis, cost of living crisis. We know that. Which totally contradicts what the eye had to say. Right, the loony right-wing rag, the Express, has united we have the power to help hard-hit families. And that's the Express saying the answer to the problem and the key to the UK's success is for the Union to stay together. Get it round, geez. You mean the key to England's success is to keep saucing off everybody else? Because England's got nothing to offer the bloody planet. England can't feed itself, can't power itself, and only has financial and professional services to offer the planet. And guess what? The planet can get these services elsewhere. Right, the Times has Johnson rejects demands for immediate tax cuts, cost of living crisis. The other right-wing loony rag, the Fail, has death knell for work from home. New law to make Wi-Fi easier gets cut from Queen's speech. There you go. They want everybody back in the office. But we know that. Mog's been promoting that. The Telegraph has Truss stands firm in face of Truss stand firm in face of EU trade war. So they know there's going to be an EU trade war when they pass a bill to allow them to set aside the NI protocols and ministers' portfolios. The Metro has a shackled like a slave, and this is the Shikabayu inquiry. Sorry, that was the Metro. The National has SNP MP is silenced from saying Tories are criminals. And I was not allowed to say that in the comments. Right? And the Star has they stink it's all over. It is now squeaky bum time. Apparently some player was sent off for farting in a game of football. Who cares? Right, you know the Star. Star's always good for a laugh, isn't it? Always lightens a mood, lightens a day. Right, that's what I've got for you today, folks. I hope you found it entertaining. I hope you found it informative. Usual stuff. Now that the local elections are over, put your partisan politics back in your pockets. Get your eyes back on the prize. Everybody's telling us this referendum's coming. Everybody's telling Westminster this referendum's going to happen, whether you like it or no. And yet we still have people saying it's not going to happen. Anyway, eyes on the prize. Hearts, get out there, win hearts and minds. Learn your how you gonies to help you win hearts and minds and get battered right into them, alright? Okay. Support the independent media, the usual stuff, Broadcasting Scotland, Independence Live, the bloggers and vloggers. Caledon Media, Norrie's back up and running again. Apparently it was after the air for a couple of weeks there. Welcome back, Norrie, at Caledon Media. And if they've got crowdfunders going, folks, and you have got a shekel to spare, which is highly unlikely in this cost of living crisis, please put it in the pot, because these people do wonderful stuff, alright? Health messaging, keep wearing face masks, clean hands and surfaces regularly. Be careful about social distancing, it's still out there in the community. And if you've still got tests, take tests, and let people, and let the NHS know, okay? Because that way, we can keep an eye on how much is in the community, because the ONS is only doing samples in communities here and there, so we can't get the actual facts. Now, you lot look after yourself. Davy will be back tomorrow. Have a nice day.